Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Boerne ISD trustee and owner of the Boerne Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Boerne City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros. Ready, aim, ceasefire.
Good morning, Kendall County. This is Ceasefire. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And today we are going to discuss the Great Divide.
That's right.
So what is the Great Divide? Is that Cibolo Creek? North and south?
Oh, gosh. I think it's a lot of things nowadays. And it's a lot of things and a whole lot of nothing, too. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But, we've talked regularly on this show about some of the things, or a lot of the things that divide us, or we think divide us. And you'll hear people mention in the news or in the media about how we might be more divided than we've ever been since the Civil War. We hear that quite a bit. Yeah. And a while back, I don't remember, I was writing a paper or something like that, and I had to get a statistic, and I saw something that you and I have discussed before, and we've discussed with several of our friends. I never went out and got the stats on it until recently, and that's the number of Supreme Court cases that are either unanimous or near unanimous, meaning it's an 8-1 or 7-2 decision instead of the usual, what do we normally see? Like a 5-4?
What we hear about.
Or 6-3. Yes. And so I started digging into that some more because I thought, well, that's interesting. And what you find is that, yes, on an issue like turning Roe v. Wade, you're going to see decisions that break along political lines. That's to be expected. But there are so many cases, almost half of all the cases are considered unanimous or near unanimous, where there's just no political divide. In fact, in the 2024-25 term, 42% of all argued cases were 9-0. 42%, right? And then when you add in near unanimous, you're getting closer to 50%. Meaning where you have these 8-1 decisions. Yeah. So I thought, wow, okay, well, maybe all this talk about division is a little overplayed or exaggerated. And so where else might we see that? Maybe we're looking at the wrong thing when we hear all this great talk about being as divided as we've ever been since the Civil War.
It gets clicks, though.
It does.
And that's what we see is what's presented to us by the news agencies and the various internet providers. And what they want is they want us to tune into them. Mm-hmm. And they get tuned in. We tune in to things that catch our attention, which are things that are different, right, things that stand out, and things that we get passionate about. And so those are the things that are presented to us pretty constantly now. And so we don't hear about, oh yeah, everything went pretty normal today, and so got his comeuppance or got his justice in whatever case, pretty normal American justice, which for the most part is really, really good, according to everybody. But it's the attention-getting aspect of the close ones that people are excited about.
Right. There's an old saying I'm sure everybody's familiar with regarding the evening news, local evening news. If it bleeds, it leads. Yes, I think we've all heard that. And so to your point, the news that gets us indignant, that angers us, that's the news that's going to get the clicks, right? Or get the eyeballs. Yeah. I think people have tried before in the past to be the positive news source or give you the uplifting story.
But they don't make any money.
They don't. No.
That's sad. It's sad, but it tends to be true.
Oh, no, wait a second here.
Except for the sports section.
We make exactly $0 doing this. Are you saying that if we start doing a little divisive news or political commentary, we could start rolling in the dough?
Maybe. I don't know.
So we just need to divide Boerne. If we talk about things that divide Boerne, we could start rolling in the cash.
We would not be the only ones. There are some Facebook places that specialize in that. Oh, and they do seem to make money.
But you and I would be really good at it, I think.
Oh. I couldn't live with myself. Not interested. But there are some things that Americans, as a national body, do disagree on. Mm-hmm. Or we think we do. And some of the big ones, Pew did some research and came up with all kinds of stats. Of course they do. But things like climate change, environment, gun policy, the military, immigration, education, those are all things that there are some wide separation on what a lot of people believe should be done for those areas. Apparently. My belief is that if you dig down into the details of it, you'll find there's a little more agreement than people think there are.
Right.
I'll just throw one out right now. Climate change. There's a lot of disagreement about climate change. But I do think that most people would agree that we should study how the climate works, and also that challenging preconceptions is good. I think both sides could agree to that, but they push back when it pushes against them. So when people study the science of the climate and it leads in one direction, some side will say, oh, I don't like that research. Or when their preconceptions are challenged, they don't like that. But I think at a base level, we could all agree that those two things are good. And I think if we just focused on those two things, we could let the science and the research go wherever it goes.
Right. Yeah, I think, climate change is interesting because when you look at polls, most people actually accept that there is climate change, even conservatives. So the disagreement is on the cause of climate change.
Right.
Right.
And so, how much and where it's going, because the models change all the time.
Right. And then the policies to correct it if they're even needed, because most Republicans would say, well, it's just a part of nature.
Right.
So I think that's where the disagreement falls in. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, it is not in the interest of the New York Times or Fox News to tell you that, actually most people accept this as a fact, right? So that they're focused on the divisions.
Whereas if we focused on what we agreed on, we'd make more progress, I think, in a lot of areas.
And that's the hard part. There was a 2025 Gallup poll that I was looking at where it basically came to the conclusion that 80% of Americans think that political leaders need to compromise. Which is astounding.
Not mine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
That's exactly right. That's the problem. So the vast majority of us want compromise. But I think the problem is that we want the other side to compromise.
Yes.
That's the other part of the study that didn't get done, right?
Yeah.
And so, and that goes back to a lot of things that we've talked about over the last 2 years about listening techniques and whatnot. But the good news is that 80% of us are in agreement about something. So we're just not as divided as maybe the news has us thinking we are.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a topic similar to climate change that gets a lot of attention. And this is another one that I was writing a paper, this is probably going back 3 months ago now, on immigration and immigration reform. And there is another topic that you think, well, okay, Republicans anti-immigration, at least that's what you hear in the news, Democrats pro-open borders. The polls show something very different. Republicans are actually, for the most part, pro-immigration, but they want border security.
Yeah.
Democrats also want border security. Now, the numbers aren't identical. More Republicans than Democrats want border security, but by and by, both parties agree that they're comfortable with immigration, by and large, and they want border enforcement. And here's the one that was really surprising, is that most Americans want illegal aliens who are already here to be left alone. Basically, they're arguing for amnesty. Now, you would never get that message if you were an adherent to Fox News or you're getting your news from, right-wing sources. You'd get the idea that what we want to do is round them all up if they're here illegally and send them back. And that is actually not the case. Most Americans, including Republicans, want amnesty for the ones that are here. They just want to keep anybody that's not here from getting in.
Yeah.
That was surprising to me. I didn't expect that. And once again, it demonstrates that we are not as divided as the news would have you think.
So the majority of the people within both groups actually think very similarly, but their presentation is polarized.
Correct.
And their leadership, maybe the leadership, I'm not sure so much, but the presentation of the two sides are polar opposites, even though the two groups tend to agree on most things.
Over 60% favor
amazing.
maintaining a substantial security presence along the U.S.-Mexico border. 60% support hiring more immigration judges to speed asylum decisions. 56% support creating more legal pathways for immigration. And just over half support increasing deportations of people in the country illegally. It's strange. But there is almost a full agreement between both parties on this. So one side is telling you that the other side wants open borders, and the other side is telling you that the other side is just complete racist xenophobes, right? None of it's true.
I'll tell you what gets me a lot of times is how much people seem to think they know what the other side thinks. And I hear this all the time, how, the right wants to do this or the left wants to do that. And they don't really say what I want to do.
No.
What do I, as a person of the left or the right, want to do? They focus on what the other side. It's all about this mind reading on what other people's intentions are. And I tell you, it kind of drives me nuts because I think it drives that polarization. Because of course they think of the most inflammatory thing they can for the other side to believe in.
Yeah.
And as you just said, it's really not that true.
You know what I want to do right now?
What's that?
Take a break.
Okay, so we are going to take our great divide down the middle of the show. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron, and we will be right back. Boerne has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Boerne Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Boerne Bookshop, and we pride ourselves on finding what you're looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Boerne Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Boerne at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Boerne Bookshop. Welcome back to Ceasefire with Dale and Ron, and we are talking about the Great Divide, or as I have thought about it, is the Continental Divide. And has anybody out there crossed the Continental Divide on the road? Mm-hmm. I have too. And one thing you'll find is as you go across it, nothing seems to change. Where you're at on that road, you're actually on a very slightly raised area, and it's sloped down on both sides. It's not that different on both sides.
No.
It's amazing.
No. I just did that recently a few weeks ago in both Colorado and New Mexico. A little more dramatic on the Colorado side, you know, the drop-offs. And the part I was in New Mexico is like, okay. There's a divide here somewhere. You know, one more thought on immigration. 73% of Americans say immigration is a good thing for this country.
That's a pretty overwhelming.
That's very, very strong.
So there are a lot of areas. I'm going to bring up one. Race relations seems to divide us all the time, or they tell us that. They're always telling us that. But I would like to propose that there actually is a huge amount of agreement on race relations. And two things are that, one, we should judge people by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. I think pretty much everybody would agree to that.
Yeah.
And second of all, we should not force somebody to like somebody else. I think most people can agree to that. And that is pretty much the extent, in my view, of how we should approach race relations. We should judge people based on their character, and we should just let people like whoever they want to like. And unfortunately, that's not the way the issue is presented to the public. It's all about who hates who and who's oppressing who and who's pushing other people down.
Yeah. Speaking of race relations, so there was a great study, and I'm trying to remember, I think this came out in early 2026, and this is from UMass Amherst, and they did a comprehensive study on what Americans think about the recent 250th celebration, race relations, different things, and there was one in particular that caught my attention. Do you agree or disagree that Jews have too much power in the business world? And Republicans and Democrats strongly agree and somewhat agree. Their numbers are identical. Now, they strongly agree and agree, those numbers varied a little bit, but if you just take those two together, we're talking 14%.
Total for the two.
16 and 17% between the difference between Republicans and Democrats. It's virtually identical.
Uh-huh.
In other words, the ones that strongly agree are in the minority.
Yeah.
Compared
Big
to
time.
the rest of them, the rest of Republicans and Democrats who think, no, this is overplayed. What that tells me is that the Democratic Socialists of America are not in touch with their own party. It also tells me that some of the Nick Fuentes types on the Republican side are not in touch with their own party.
But they don't want to be in touch. They want to lead. That both those groups of people want to lead their party or their followers in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we agree with that direction or not is not the point. The point is they don't want to represent large groups of Americans. They want to lead large groups of Americans.
Right.
Slightly different, yeah.
In that same study, 74% of the people that were surveyed think that Americans have far more in common than things that divide us.
That's nice to hear.
So that almost jives with that other statistic that I just gave you from that survey. So we're hearing one thing in the news. We're hearing one thing if we're on Facebook or on X or some other form of social media. We've got the Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens on one side and the DSAs on the other, telling us this is how Republicans think or this is how Democrats think.
Yeah.
But when individual Americans are polled, they're saying quite the opposite.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that voice does not have a loud spokesperson.
No,
Honestly,
it doesn't.
Divisiveness is what gets news, and unfortunately, that's what drives everything. And I think it's important for people to realize that and to step back when they hear it and think, okay, why is this presenter presenting things so divisively? And I think you'll frequently find it's because, well, one, it's their job. And they gain popularity and status by taking that position.
Yeah. It's one thing when if you're watching Fox News or you're watching, I don't know what what it's called now, MS Now, we almost, some of us expect that. Like,
Yes.
Of course Fox News is pushing that position. I sometimes wonder if the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens on the right and the equivalents on the left truly believe what they're saying, or if they know that they can monetize people's anger and they can take those eyeballs or those ears and monetize that and turn it into money. And so it's a shtick. It's a means of
I wondered that too.
Producing income, and they know that they can stay relevant and make money as long as they stake out that position, because otherwise, if they didn't, they would be just another influencer, just another podcaster in a sea of, well, like us. Yeah.
Maybe our model is the model that we should have across the country. Podcasters should not make any money doing what they do. It should be a part-time thing. They should have a real job somewhere, and then in the evening, if they want to talk about something, go talk about it, and people can listen if they want. But if it wasn't monetizable, then I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you do that, but it might do something to diffuse some of all that stuff.
That's an interesting question, because that almost goes back to the question about the ministry. So in the New Testament, Paul tells you go out there and go minister and really don't worry about what you're going to eat or, because people are going to take care of you. The message that you're bringing is worth being cared for. People should provide for you. So some people say, well, then don't worry about it. You shouldn't go out and accumulate wealth. And then you've got the pastors who say, well, hey, listen, I've got value and I'm bringing a good message. You should take care of me. And so then some people get disgusted by the wealth that they see pastors accumulate. And so some people could argue, well, hey, look, I bring value. I bring ears. Somebody should compensate me for this. I happen to think there's value in what you and I talk about. But for me personally, the value is getting to talk about it, having this venue here, the local radio station, that we get to sit down and record these shows and put this out there. And that's value enough.
It's sort of like the public service statesmanship kind of position, where it used to be in the U.S., you had a life, a career, a business, or whatever, and then as you retired, you'd go into politics. Mm-hmm. And people did it for a short period of time at the end of their lives. They didn't do it as a career. And I think that's something that we've lost, which is unfortunate.
Right. I don't want to pick on anybody, but Lindsey Graham is, recently passed away, and he was celebrated for some, 40 years long political career. And not to take anything away from him, but to me, it's astounding that anybody would want to do that for that long. Yeah. It's just, and that people can take something like that, a Senate position, a congressional position, or just anything, and want to do it long term. I mean, after 8 years of city council, I thought, oh my gosh, that's horrible.
But I think Senator Graham's a great example because he did it, and I had my disagreements with some of his positions on things, but when he died, his personal net worth was $1.5 million, which is trivial for a senator. And so he did not do it to get rich.
No.
And regardless of what I think his positions were or whatever, he did it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And he did it because it was a passion for him, and he just did it because he felt it was important. And he never monetized it, which is, very admirable. I did not know this at the time until afterwards.
I didn't know that either. That's I actually like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wish more of them would do that, but I will. One question I have that I came up with during this research I did is that should government policy be focused on what we agree on, or should it be focused on what we disagree on? Everything we hear about from politicians and parties and what they want to do always seems to focus around these issues that there's a lot of strife and divisiveness. Maybe it might be a better thing is if they focused on the things that we do agree on and maybe not touched on so much of the divisive stuff. Maybe just build some roads, have some of your basic decent policing, have weights and measures, and take care of that kind of stuff, and focus on the things that we agree on. Because there's a lot that we agree on that could be done better.
Well, maybe it's the case that those things are being focused on, and we just don't hear about it because it's not that squeaky wheel.
That's a good point.
Right. For example, highway funding. I know from my experience on the Alamo area MPO that hundreds of millions of dollars are pouring into the state of Texas every year.
Yeah.
And highway projects are being allocated and taken care of. But
I would say that they're not getting the attention they should from people making decisions. I think some of that goes on autopilot and goes in random bureaucratic directions that aren't that necessary. I-35 over on the other side of San Antonio is a bit of a mess. It's been under construction forever, and it'll continue to be under construction forever. And I think if it had been better managed, it would be a good thing. Mm-hmm. Our construction under I-10 here from Boerne to San Antonio, there were some thoughts that I had of how it was managed, not necessarily what the final product is, but it could have been managed a lot better as far as how it got done. So I would like to have had more discussion. That goes along with what's going on with 46. I mean, everybody talks about the gateway and how divisive that is. Maybe they should just focus on getting 46 to I-10 functional and give us a couple of entrances from the east into Boerne, because when we had the floods, I had people come to my store because they couldn't get home. Now, it's great for them to come to my store, but they couldn't get home because Esser and River Road was flooded.
Yeah.
And there was no other way to get home.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's not a good thing. You need to have a couple of ways to get to the east side of Boerne.
Yeah.
And that's a good portion of the town now. There's a lot of people that live over there, and there's businesses and all kinds of stuff.
We might need a part 2 to this show so we can talk about solutions. We talked about problems, but we didn't touch on solutions. So you got a book for us today, Dave?
I do have a book, and this actually came out of the recent floodings. And this is a small book, but it's called Surviving the First 36 Hours. And it's just, if you have an emergency, what do you do to take care of yourself until rescue can come or whatnot? It's a small book. It's by Kai Firneo. And it's got a lot of graphics and descriptions and whatnot. It's just a neat little book talking about what to do if you're in a situation where you need to survive on your own for somebody to come rescue you. And I think everybody should know that. I mean, we should teach this stuff to our kids when they're young so that as they get older, something happens, they know how to take care of themselves, stay warm when it's wet and miserable out or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
So one final thought before we wrap this up. There's a great divide in Texas about brisket, lean or marbled. And I think we should focus on the fact that there's brisket.
Good point.
Right?
Yes, brisket is wonderful, and we should just all be very happy that we have brisket.
That's right. And as long as I get the marbled half, I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We can all get what we want. You know?
That's right.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron, and thank you for listening. And if you missed any of it, you can always go to BoerneRadio.com and listen to our podcasts or any of their other great podcasts. See you next week.